Hey, good morning, my friends. Meteorologist Mark Torregrossa here, owner of farmerweather.com and also chief meteorologist for a website called MLive, which is Michigan's most used local news site, seventh most trafficked website in the country for local news. A lot of you have MLives from the parent company in your neck of the woods, like Syracuse.com, some other ones like that. Meteorologist, 35 years. This update is just for my neighbors in Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward, and to a certain degree, friends in Engelwood and Venice. This is my interpretation, and we've got a lot to talk about. So let's get to it here, okay? I woke up 3 this morning. I got thoroughly updated. I looked at everything for an hour or so, fell back asleep, and now updating again. So we're looking at the satellite picture, and this will become more important as it gets closer. We've seen just this churning eye, and we've thought, oh, what a storm. Look at the recent images. Look at how the symmetry is breaking down. Now, that's not to say, oh, hey, it's all over. No, it just says that the engine of a major Category 5 hurricane is not finely tuned as much. I want to go over some differences, okay, with other storms we've had. This is not, let's compare it to Ian because that's what we know. This is not an Ian rain. I emphasize not an Ian rain. We were on what we call the dirty side of the storm, and Ian, 14 to 19 inches of rain from Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward, up to my friends in Engelwood. This one, 3 to 5 inches of rain. What? That's it in our region. Damage pattern will be opposite of Ian. You remember in Ian, Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward was a mess. And as you went north to Engelwood, still a mess. Then you went north to Venice, and you kind of went, where's the hurricane go? Tree down here or there, a limb, or a bad roof, some shingles off. This will be opposite. Cape Haze Windward, the least damage, whatever we have. Engelwood more, of course, the shoreline on the surge could be very devastating, is life-threatening. Do evacuate when they tell you to, as they have. Up to Venice, Venice will sustain quite a bit of damage, probably. The wind. What did we have in Ian? Cape Haze Windward, Rotonda West, my neighborhood, I calculated 125 mile an hour gust. Yes, sorry to disappoint you that it was not a Category 5 hurricane in Rotonda West. It was 125 mile an hour gust out of the southeast. So you can use that with the additions, the hardening off, the improvements you've made on your home to see how you feel like your house will fare in this one. Storm surge, 6 to 10 feet is the current forecast. That's the scary part because we've never had that type of forecast for our region. You remember Ian, it was 8 to 12 foot. It was a wide storm surge, and then they lessened it as the eye shifted to the south. And one big worry that you will have mentally with this is that the eye will start to wobble, because there are some forces that are actually good for us working on this hurricane. Wind shear will be increasing. Dry air will be in training or getting sucked into it. All good things. They make the engine of a hurricane not work as efficiently as when it had 180 miles an hour. These are all good things, but it will also cause the eye to wobble and give you the uncertainty. All right, let's go back to the map. So you see the radar or the satellite. I was hoping to get the 10 o'clock advisory in, but we don't yet. So Here's one thing that I think we definitely should watch. See there in the center of your screen, minimum central pressure. That's the air pressure in the center of the hurricane. That's one of the ways we rank the strength, and that's what we will peg. So when it was 180 mile an hour winds yesterday, the air pressure was 899 millibars, the fourth lowest air pressure ever recorded in the Atlantic Basin. It is now 929 millibars. That means the air pressure has risen. The storm has weakened, so to speak, by 30 millibars of pressure. Wind follows pressure. Wind is made by air pressure. So, and just to give you another good positive note, is that at landfall, the hurricane is expected to have a central pressure of 960 millibars. Still a very major hurricane, but not an Ian, not a Helene, where the peak intensity was at the shoreline. This one has peaked, more likely, it has peaked on strength, and now it's just a question of how quickly or when will the strength start to erode. All right, some more things in here. Let's see. I like this. I like this, and this is something you don't see except for here with me, Mark Torregrossa. Again, we're talking, I guess I should go back and just give you a summary. So we're talking, the time frame has solidified. The time frame is, let's call it 60 mile an hour gusts or more, sometime 8 p.m. Wednesday, 8 p.m. tomorrow to 3 a.m. Thursday. For Rotonda West, probably a 2, 3, 4 hour window of 60 mile an hour or more gusts. By the way, where I'm going with this, just so you know, Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward, I'm going to say 60 to 90 mile per hour gusts, a few of those in a 3-hour time period, and the most likely window, 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts. Some weakening, and we could not have a 60 mile an hour gust, but I believe that would be very difficult to not have that. Engelwood, you're 10 miles an hour higher, 70 to 100 mile an hour gusts, probably 70 to 80. Venice, you're 10 miles an hour higher, 80 to 110 mile an hour gusts. That's a damaging wind, and probably 85 to 100 miles. So you can get the idea that the damage path will be opposite of Ian in this. Okay, so what I like about this is we're going to look at, let's see, we're going to look at the 9th. We're going to look at this one that I have right in the middle. Forecast valid October 10th, 6Z. That's 2 a.m. The eye near the coast, they say, okay? Maximum wind, 110 knots. That's 120 mile an hour sustained wind. Gusts to 135. That's 150 mile gusts. That's strong. Look at the size of the hurricane wind field, the steady wind. So that's 64 knots. What it's saying is that 64 knot circle, imagine a circle around the eye, will extend 30 miles out to the northeast. We're going to put the eye about Bradenton, is where we're calling it right now. So 30 miles to the northeast, 25 miles to the southeast, to 30 miles to the southwest. So it's basically a 30-mile wide circle, a 30-mile radius, a 60-mile wide circle centered on Bradenton, where the steady 75-mile-an-hour winds are. We are out of that zone. This is one thing they might not be telling the public. Again, I'm not trying to say we are not in a major hurricane and it's not gonna be a mess. I'm just saying everything they do gets all of the people out of the way. And now we're trying to fine tune it and find some positives in here so that, you know, when we're done, you say, what were they talking about? If nothing happens in our area, or not much, And you'll see why, because it's always been anticipated to be a fairly small wind field. Let's see, we don't have any more discussion. Let's see. These still fluctuations in strength due to continued structural changes. Oh, let me get back to it. You don't want to see me. Okay, hey, this is kind of like our own little weather channel, isn't it? Fluctuations in strength due to continued structural changes are likely during the next day or so while Milton moves across central and eastern Gulf of Mexico. An increase in vertical wind shear, that is not good for a hurricane. That is good for us humans. An increase in vertical wind shear will likely cause some weakening before the hurricane reaches Florida, but there's high confidence that Milton will remain an extremely dangerous hurricane when it reaches the state. And even here they mention, Milton is still a relatively compact hurricane, but the wind field is expected to continue to grow in size as it approaches Florida. In fact, the official forecast shows the hurricane and tropical storm force winds roughly doubling in size by the time it makes landfall. So I showed you the official forecast already doubling in size. So currently, it's about a 30-mile circle of hurricane winds. Let's just go to the official forecast. So this is the official forecast. Still no update, okay? And you'll see where they have it. And I'm going to show you a bunch of models here and how it compares. So this is their official forecast. So they've held it at about Bradenton, or a little bit north of Bradenton. Just remember that position, okay? All right, European model. We are getting the 6Z in, and let me see how far out we got. We haven't gotten far enough, so we got to go back still to last evening's run. European, a good model, a good global model on placement. It's going to show you a wobble. It's going to show you a northward turn. You're saying, oh, nice, very nice. And then it takes a straight east. Will it do that? I don't know. A lot of the models show it. And then, so this right here is 8 o'clock Wednesday evening. Those light oranges would be 50-mile-an-hour gusts, let's call it. And then it turns it northward, and it brings it on shore, the eye, about Tampa Bay, mouth of Tampa Bay. So the strongest it gets it for our area, Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward, the strongest it gets it is 70-mile-an-hour gusts. So your European would say 70 to 80 is a good reasonable window. 2 a.m. on Thursday. Still, I like the European because it doesn't do a lot after it. It's still going to be very gusty out of the west. There will be a secondary surge behind it, but the momentum of the storm will be moving away. And as the wind turns to the northwest, that takes certainly any storm surge in Coral Creek area out of the question. So this is that same model giving us the peak wind gusts that it measures at any one point. And what does this say for Rotonda West? You see the almost brown. So let's call it a 60 knot peak wind gust, which is probably about 71 miles an hour. Hence my Rotonda West 60 to 90 mile an hour gusts, 70 to 80 gust likely. And what this is over the course of 2 or 3 hours, you could have 3 or 4 1-minute gusts of 70 miles an hour. Now look northward. There's your Venice, solidly in the brown, heading toward the pink. And so therefore the 80 to 110 mile-an-hour gusts. Here's the U.S. model, the GFS. Let me hit refresh, see if we got... No, we don't have anything new. GFS, good model. Now I got to reload it here for you for a second. Give me a second here. Good model. It has a bigger wind field with this, so it does this on us, and that would be, the GFS would say 80 mile-an-hour gusts. It's farther south. I probably would not trust it as much because it doesn't appear like it's trying to weaken the storm, but it's also the same track right to Tampa. So I probably would accept this on track, but probably not on size and intensity. Now, these have been some of the best models. These models that I'm going to show you these are specific hurricane models. We call them regional hurricane models. These two have been very good. The HAFS version A and version B. I have to look into what the two different versions are, but we're going to look at those, and then we're going to look at the string diagram. Hopefully you're getting that we are going to have a hurricane. We are likely going to have some damage in our area. We could, if we pray, we could be on the edge of the gradient where the wind tapers off from quite damaging. I feel like Venice, you're probably not going to be able to escape the quite damaging. Down to Rotonda West, Cape Haze, maybe not much damage to isolated damage. Again, storm surge, a whole different story. If you can see the water, you better be out of your place by Wednesday morning. You only have to go 10, 15, 20 miles inland on this storm. So here is our HAFS-B. It's a little farther north. What does it do on a maximum wind in Rotonda West? It does 65 to 70 mile an hour gusts. What does it do in Venice? It does 100 mile an hour gusts. And then off, slowing, the wind really coming down after about 11 o'clock Thursday morning. Let's look at version A. So two different models. And note, its eye is at Clearwater. Let's take version A for the win. How does that sound, my friends? So this would be when we'd have the strongest wind. This would be 8 p.m. Wednesday to 11 p.m. Wednesday, and this one would say a peak wind gust of about 60 miles an hour in Rotonda West, Cape Haze Windward. Let's take that one. Sign us up, right? Let's all kick in some money. All right, so now what you're going to see here is, I think, very important. So this, I've put the hurricane track forecasts from all of the best models, and you'll see kind of how they're all lining up. And this is just going to be important for as we get closer. If we see a tweak to the north, we can shift everything. If we see everything shift 10 miles north, we can shift that 60-mile gust line 10 miles north and the 70-mile-an-hour gust and the 80-mile-an-hour, and we'll be all updated as this really gets close. Okay, so here are all of the models, and you see they're all becoming very grouped very nicely from Bradenton to the mouth of Tampa Bay. You see a couple of outliers north and one outlier south. Would discount those. Okay. Now let me toggle a few of these. Let's see here. All right, so this one is important. This, you see the light blue line flashing. That is the current official National Hurricane Center forecast. South side of Bradenton, north side of Sarasota, okay? look at where they lie versus the consensus. They're on the south side of the consensus. So we may see a tweak in our 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock update. We may see a tweak on the forecast path. We may. They may wait until they see really a reason to tweak it. But they've seemed to, in this storm, been tweaking all the time. 5 miles south, 5 miles north. This right here is the consensus. This is what we call the ensemble average. The one that I'm flashing is the ensemble average of the US model, the European model, the HAFS, and the HAFS-B. And it's, a little north, but you saw the wind gradient. We'll take every 5 and 10 miles we can get, my friends. Now let's go to Sturge. Like I said, I woke up at 3 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I said, I got to go check the weather. And I just started looking at this. I said, what does a 6 to 10 foot storm surge do in my neighborhood, Cape Haze Windward, Cape Haze Drive? So I looked at the map. We're going to have a southwest to west to northwest wind. I looked at Coral Creek. I said, wow, there is probably no way 10 feet of water can get in Coral Creek the way it's configured. I think Coral Creek could go up 3 feet easily, maybe 5 feet, maybe 6 feet. Me and one of my neighbors, Coke Wilson, hey Coke, we looked at the river on no tide. It's about 4 feet below the bank. So if we had a 6 foot surge, the river would come 2 feet out of its bank. The homes along Coral Creek would maybe flood. But in the neighborhood as a whole, and for those of you that I'm talking to, probably not an issue. Certainly Rotonda West, the Circle, probably not an issue. Engelwood, Venice, some distance inland on those two cities, probable devastation, probable. In Helene, we figured that it was probably about a 4 to 5 foot storm surge at Minnesota Key and in Engelwood, Old Engelwood. So if it did get to 9 or 10 feet, it would be, 4 or 5 feet higher than this last one. So they have this, and they have the forecast. If you want the official forecast for Rotonda West, 6 to 10 feet, Engelwood northward, 10 to 15 feet. This is the ultimate highest at high tide. High tide is at 5:40 in the morning, so we will actually be almost mid-tide, I guess you'd say. See if I have anything else for you. Okay, yeah, I found this in the NOAA sites. This is the, I don't know if I like this for you because you really can't see what it's talking about. Excuse me. This is a 50% chance of a certain type of size surge. The green is a 50% chance of a 7 to 9 foot surge. That's on Minnesota Key, Gasparilla Island. The dark blue, or let's work our way from highest surge down. The purplish is a 50% chance of a 5 to 7 foot surge. That would be up into Coral Creek as I see it. Then the next, we'll call it a medium bright blue. That's a 50% chance of a 3 to 5 foot storm surge. And then the dark blue is a 1 to 3 foot. And note where you see no coloring, there's no 50% chance of a storm surge. A couple last things. So Remember, I'm trying to give us hope, and there is hope. And the one hope is that the hurricane is not going into an environment where it can rule the roost. Mother Nature and upper level winds and even some dry air entrainment will say, hey, hurricane, you're not going to be gaining strength. So this is why. This is what shear is. So when you have a major hurricane, we probably wouldn't see any coloring on here. This is the wind speed at 30,000 feet up. And hurricanes do not like that. And so what you see like over northern Florida, those greens, that's 100-mile-an-hour wind aloft. Out of the west, if you got a circulation and you put 100-mile-an-hour wind out of the west on the north side of it, it tears down that circulation. Not to the point of disappearing, but just to the point of not allowing it to really be the engine that it can be. So this is a Wednesday. Let's go to Wednesday evening. And yeah, the shear is kind of pulling off, and there's another patch of shear back to the west. It could be 6 to 12 hours too late to have it just totally zap this thing. And of course, it hits the land, so that will happen. But the point is, there is a force that will make this hurricane continue to weaken as it approaches shore, and even the government is saying that now. Now, this is the dry air entrainment. Okay, so this is the relative humidity at about 10,000 feet up. Where you see the browns, that's dry air. Hurricanes do not like dry air. So let's just look at where it's at now. So this would be right now, and you notice that it's fully the humidity in the mid levels of the atmosphere. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, there's the dry air. I got to go back and show you here's the shear. Okay, so you see the winds aloft. That's the jet core. That's the jet stream. Tears them apart. Now, here is the relative humidity. So this is right now. Look at the bottom of the screen. That's the relative humidity, the moisture around the storm system. As we get into Wednesday morning, note that through the Keys from the south, there's some drier air coming in. I love this image right here. This is 2 p.m. Wednesday. See the little tongue of dry air in the Keys being kind of sucked up into ahead of the storm? Hurricanes don't like that. And yeah, we'd love to see just dark brown come in and clobber it, and that's not going to happen. But the point is, it actually has three forces going against it that will cause it to weaken. And they've forecasted that weakening in the official forecast. They've taken that into account, but they might not take it totally into account. Let me just go back and make sure we don't have a new update yet. You'll get it fresh with me if we do have a new update. Breaking news. Let's go to it. We have a new update. Let's see what we got. This just came in Eastern time. All right. Public advisory. Our Milton forecast to remain major hurricane status and expand in size while it approaches the west coast of Florida. Let's see. So air pressure, 929. It was 929 last time, so it has not raised air pressure. Maximum sustained winds 150 miles an hour. Still a monster. Let's see if we get we did get a new positioning on this. So we've already looked at this older forecast. Now let's see how much it's changed. So we're going to go to, 8 p.m. They've got maximum winds, 110 knots, gust to 135. And then they have it inland at 8 Thursday morning, obviously. The hurricane field is still about a 30-mile radius around the center. We're going to get a new center here, too. So let's Let's see the discussion. So this is, I'm wading through this for the first time with you also. So let me just read it here. Suggests that Milton completed an eye wall replacement overnight, and the new eye wall has contracted down from 22 nautical miles to 12 nautical miles in diameter. However, it does not appear that the hurricane weakened much after the eye wall replacement, and it could have rebounded with the outer eye wall contraction. So they pegged the intensity, okay. Okay, so the recent aircraft fixes show that Milton has turned a bit leftward, is moving toward the north-northeast. That was expected, so this is the curve northeast. Milton's forecast to turn northeast and begin accelerating later today as it moves between a trough digging into the Gulf of Mexico and a ridge near the Greater Antilles, all expected in the past. The track guidance is honed in on a landfall along the west central coast of Florida sometime Wednesday night. Okay, still general talk. However, it is critical to remember that even at 36 to 48 hours away, NHC's track forecast can be off by an average of 60 to 70 nautical miles, which is definitely true. So it could come anywhere as far south as Engelwood to as far north as 60 miles north, which means we still can't pinpoint an exact landfall location, especially if the hurricane wobbles as it approaches the coast. And I talked about that wobble and how it will wear on your nerves. Okay, here's the, let's see, Milton is expected to maintain major hurricane strength while it moves across the Gulf of Mexico and approaches the west coast of Florida. Stronger vertical shear, remember, that's bad for a hurricane, is expected to set in about 24 hours, but even if this causes some weakening, it will not be enough to keep Milton from being an extremely dangerous hurricane when it reaches shore, of course. Additionally, the first stages of extratropical transition may be just underway as Milton is reaching the coast, which could impart some baroclinic energy and slow the rate of weakening. Okay, so the NHC intensity forecast is close to the top end of the model envelope, which includes the GFS and the European models, since these models should have a better handle on a potential positive trough interaction. Wow, that was a lot of meteorology for you. Whew, let's take a drink of coffee and I'll get you through that one. So what they're saying is that the shear is there, and I showed you that, but they don't feel like it will be significant enough to really zap Milton. But they also feel like it's going to be transition. I shouldn't say this, might be politically incorrect, but it's almost going through a sex change. Okay, as it approaches the coast, it's going from a hurricane to a non-tropical storm, and when that happens, the storm kind of widens out, and it slows down the rapid rate of weakening. You know, all still saying that we've got a mess. You know, we got something that we should definitely watch. Let's see. Milton's wind field is expected to expand as it approaches Florida. In fact, the official forecast shows the hurricane tropical storm force winds roughly doubling in size by the time it makes landfall. I showed you the size, though, 30 miles. Let's call it a 60-mile wide circle centered over the point. We'll see where that is in just a minute. Okay, so no real significant changes. Now let's see their forecast track, and then I will leave you. I got to go finish laying a sidewalk for my mother-in-law so she doesn't break her ankle. All right, so this is the brand new one, 11 a.m. Let's see if they did any tweaking. Remember, we were at Bradenton before, and we're still at Bradenton now. So they have left the track at the same spot. So there's your update. I will keep you updated. I'm meteorologist Mark Torregrossa. Bye.